are here back again. Today in this video, Julia and we are going to explain you our midterm volunteer journey in Přerov. So, in total we have been there for 5 days, from the 10th of March until the 14th of March, and now we are going to explain day by day what we have been doing there. To start with, on Monday we took the train at 9 o'clock from Pilsen to Prague, and then we meet with another volunteers from Prague and go together from Prague to Přerov. So more or less we arrived to Přerov at 2 p.m. Once we arrive to Přerov, we go walking 30 minutes until the hotel. We do the check-in and meet in the big room with all the volunteers at around 4 o'clock after we have our coffee break. So once in the big room, we start with activities like putting our names in the European map to know from which country we came from. Then in the Czech map, we also put post-its in all the places we have been to. After that, we also write word or expression in Czech that we really like. That in my case, I wrote cože. And finally, we also write what we hope and want to learn from this midterm training. After this beginning, the instructors explain us the rules and functions of the hotel, as well as the organization and planning that we are gonna have during the whole week of the volunteer training. In the end of this Monday afternoon, we finish each of us talking about the picture we upload in Drive that describes two situations. A photo that we are proud of, and then another photo, something that we went wrong but we took a lesson of it. And after having the discussion of all the photos, we go to the dining room to have our dinner. In the Tuesday morning, we start with some activities for team building. So for that, we play a game with balls where there were 3 different boxes and with different point values. The first box was worth 1 point, the second 5, and the last one 10 points. We had 3 attempts in total, and we improved our score while also refining our strategy. Since it was a group activity, we had to plan our strategy together. After this, we have our coffee break, and then the instructor shows us the emotion graph, where I display the mood levels, very bad, neutral, and very good, and the X represented time, months, or activity we had done in Czech Republic. So we had to create our own graph based on this. Afterward, once we had created our graphs, we had to present them to the whole group and discuss them together. And finally, we were split into 3 smaller groups to fill out a questionnaire about the ESC, European Solidarity Corps. And after that, again, we have our coffee break. We finish the coffee break, and they explain us the key competences and how the youth pass works, and after it we have our lunch. Then in the afternoon, regarding the Czech language, we did 2 activities. The first was a game where we received cards with questions in English and of course their Czech translation, just in case, and we had to walk around the room, ask the question in Czech and get the responses in Czech. We keep exchanging questions and move on the next person. And the second activity was we split into 3 different groups, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. In our case, we were in the intermediate group. So we discuss aspects of Czech that we find difficult, and then the mentor explained them. And finally, we had our conversation in Czech simulating a shopping situation. That was all for Tuesday. So we have dinner and go to sleep. Okay. On Wednesday, the first exercise in the morning was to stand in a circle, and each of us had to perform a movement to stretch our body, which everyone has to copy. We were split into two large groups, and in my case, the first group was about well-being. We were given a piece of paper where we had to write things that make us happy, things that make us nervous, and strategies we use to cope with those nervous feelings. After taking some time to reflect, we discussed them in the whole group. After this activity, we had our coffee break, and in the second seminar, we had to walk around the entire space as far from each other as possible. And the first step was to walk slowly, and then gradually was increasing the speed. Next, we were paired up, and without looking at each other, we had to describe an object to our partner, and the partner has to draw it. Once all the drawings were finished, we discussed and reflected on them in the big group. When we sit in the group and each person had to choose a piece of paper that represents them. In my case, I picked organized, and we had to explain to our partner in 2 minutes why we had chosen that particular quality of ourselves. This was an exercise in active listening, and it made me realize how hard it's not to interrupt when the other person is talking. Then was the presentation of open space, where we discussed the activities proposed by the volunteers, such as origami, dancing, giving massage, talking about gender in sports, etc. Then we have the break to have lunch, and in the afternoon the focus was on exploring Přerov, and there were 4 of us. We did 3 activities, and it was very interesting to go for a walk in the city. And after finishing the activities, we returned back to the hotel. When we arrived to the hotel, coffee break was served with delicious chocolate cheesecake. And then in the afternoon, we reflect on the walk we have taken in Přerov and on the outdoor activities we have done. We then show the group the object that represents our volunteer work, creating like a mini gallery. So each of volunteer brings an object that represents their volunteer. And finally, we work on a molecule about ourselves. We reflected in small groups. In this reflection, we use cards to explain why we choose them and what they represent about our day. And then we go to dinner.
Our Thursday started the same as Tuesday and Wednesday, with a breakfast together with other volunteers, and then at 9:30 we started with our first workshop. But of course, before we really started with the work, we had to do an energizer to get us all moving. And this time our trainers chose a bit of an unusual one. I hadn't done this one before. So basically we had to make chicken noises. We were standing in a circle, and each of us had to do a noise as a chicken when we got the worm, and then we had to give it to the next person. It was really funny, and every time you had to laugh, you had to run around the circle, to get the blood running. And after this energizer, we talked about our mini project. A mini project is basically something a volunteer can choose to do in their organization, and it can be anything like a workshop, DIY, or a social media account even. And we talked about it in groups with people that were as far along as we, so we were both in the we are currently planning group. There was also a group that had already done it, a group that planned on doing it but wasn't sure what they should do. And then after, we had to present our ideas. And after talking about the mini project, we of course had a coffee break as all the other days. And then we had a workshop called Open Space, and we prepared this workshop on Tuesday, I think. So basically you could come together in a group, as a pair, or even alone, and think about something you want to like present to the other volunteers where they can participate. And I did a workshop with two of my other German volunteers. We showed people how to fold an origami frog. It was kind of funny, and I noticed how hard it is to give instructions in English while like folding something, because that's vocabulary I hadn't needed before. And of course there were also other workshops. Another one I really liked was a team building activity. It was super fun. You were also there, right? So we weren't allowed to talk, and we had to hold hands the whole time. I think we were 16 people, so it was really hard. And we didn't get it in the end because we only had 30 minutes, I think, and normally you need up to 2 hours, I think the leader said. So it was amazing. I will remember that one. And after the open space, of course, we reflected on it, had a coffee break, and we continued with the key competences that Livia also mentioned, because there are 8 categories, and you can basically put every competence in one of the categories, and we did that during this workshop. And of course, last but not least, on Thursday we also did our reflection of the whole week, because it was the last day doing the workshops. So we did a reflection as a big group, talked about the week, and each person had to say a word they associate with the week. And after the reflection, the day was over and we went to have some dinner. And on Friday was sadly the day we had to leave again. And in the beginning we thought that it would like take longer the whole week, because there was so much on our program. But it, like you said, time flies. And we had a last breakfast together with the other volunteers. Then we checked out of the hotel and walked to the train station. It wasn't as good as coming to the hotel because it was raining, so we got really wet, but at least it wasn't too cold. And our train left at 10:39, I think, and the train journey was like 13 minutes. It wasn't long because we got off at Olomouc, and Livia and a few other volunteers stayed there for the day to look around the city, and I continued on to Prague and later to Dresden to get home to my family. I spent the weekend there, and that was basically our Friday. Not a lot happened there because we had to check out at 10 a.m. at the latest, so we chose to have an early ride home. So after this work of midterm training, I remembered again how good it is to be around people that are nice and interested in to hear what you have to say, and to hear about your experience also with the volunteering, how it is to live in another country for a longer time, because most of them also are here for a year. So we have basically the same journey, although not exactly the same, but similar. And yeah, we had an amazing week there. We are kind of sad that it was probably the last time we saw some of them, because of course they are all from different parts of Europe and the world. So yeah, we will see, but it was amazing, and we are already at the end of our video. So we hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting to hear about our experience, and we will see you next month.
Bye!